So yeah, we are glad to have you here today to talk about AbleGamers. And what's interesting is that I didn't know about AbleGamers until I got on Twitter. Twitter, as much as of a mess it is, it's actually a really good tool at times. And so I was able to learn a little bit more. And I think it's partially because, and I think a lot of us kind of have this issue where if something is not readily affecting us, we don't necessarily see it right away.
Yeah.
And so because of that, it's like, oh, I didn't know there was a, not that there wasn't a need, but there wasn't like a company that's out here doing the things that AbleGamers does, and that they have, these partnerships and things like that. And I'm like, oh, this is really cool. So then I started following and I followed you on Twitter, and I started seeing all these different things. And I was like, oh, this is very interesting. Things that you're doing in order to make video games more accessible to everyone who wants to play, which is a big deal for us. Maybe not in terms of physical ability, but essentially, being a minority or whatever. Like, oh, more of us get to play. Was one of the reasons why we championed the Game Pass. And so I was like, oh, I really wanted to get Steven on the podcast. And recently, you did a call out about AbleGamers, a gala that's coming out, or a gala that's happening later this month. And so we're like, oh, this is a perfect time to have you on. And so, but before we get to that though, I was wondering if you could kind of give us a brief history of AbleGamers. Like, how did it come to be? And, for the people out there who might not know what AbleGamers is.
Yeah, well, the thing is, AbleGamers has been around for a while, but it's one of those overnight successes kind of things where people have been paying more and more attention to disabled people in the last 5 or 6 years than maybe the previous decade before that, or 5. And it's been a combination of the industry maturing and coming along to the realization that it needed to be a thing, but it took a lot of pushing. So a little over 17 years ago or so now, I have to actually look up the date. It's been so long. It's been decades of my life at this point. Where we've been pushing the game industry slowly but surely. It started out with just Mark Varley, who's the founder of AbleGamers, having this vision for a place where people with disabilities could go and learn information on how they can game better, and almost like a repository of information. And kind of evolved from there into this juggernaut beast that AbleGamers is today, where it's an international charity, one of the biggest frontrunners for people with disabilities in video gaming anywhere there is. And it's through a combination of focusing on player experiences. So it's not like we're out there telling developers that, you need easy mode, you need remapping, you need captioning, which are all things that we'll have conversations about and when they're appropriate and when they're not. But we basically say, you're the developers. We're not here to tell you how to develop. We're here to tell you these are the challenges that people with disabilities face. These are the things that are difficult, and these are the things that help alleviate those problems. Now, take that information and turn it into a usable product. Turn it into something that's baked directly into your video game. And those who don't need those options will not mind that they're there, and those who do need them will be grateful that they happen to be there.
That's awesome.
Thank you for that.
Yeah. So I mean, it's hard. There is unfortunately for me no elevator pitch for AbleGamers, but whether it's helping developers figure out how to develop more successfully, or helping where we were one of the consulting charities on the Xbox Adaptive Controller, the PlayStation Adaptive Controller, or whether it's reaching out to individuals. We've helped thousands of people every year to get into playing video games, no matter what their disability is. And that's all thanks to donor money. The donors pay for people who otherwise could not afford it. So for those of you who may not be aware of how bad it is, for people with disabilities, it's usually that the government wants you to stay below the poverty line. You have to choose often between medicine and food, and in some cases, you're not even allowed to earn money, or else the government will take away your medical benefits. Which, if you're someone like myself who has a ventilator, these things are expensive. I cannot afford one. So unless anybody out there happens to have a spare $500,000 just lying around, if you do, email me. But otherwise, it's where you need the insurance, and so affording a simple thing like, a $90 controller seems to a lot of people like, oh, it's just a controller. But to somebody, it might be life-changing. It might be like, I can finally access these worlds that I've been wanting to play. I might be able to play with my sister, brother, mother. I might be able to play with my friends. Finally, they've been talking about this game forever, and now I can finally participate. And so it's really not just about gaming. It's about the people. It's about the lives.
That's actual and factual. Agreed. Good to hear that, though. It is really nice to hear somebody talk about that and be able to say it the way it needs to be said. I think that most people who are not affected in their lives at all by any disability don't seem to understand everything that you just said. There's a lot of people who don't, they might be gamers, and then in their minds, they don't even think that people with disabilities play games or interested in playing games at all.
Mm-hmm.
So I just think that there's just a part of the world of people who are abled, who maybe just they're not, because it's not in their life, they don't think about it. And so I think that obviously this organization is doing a lot of great work, and it kind of touches me in a way because I do understand that being disabled it's a field that people can go in and out of. Some people are born with disabilities. Some people gain disabilities later on in life. And since I went through my own issue, and we've discussed this on the pod multiple times, I was actually really excited when Kenny said he wanted to bring you on to talk. So again, thank you for being here.
No, I appreciate the kind words. I'm just out there trying to do my thing. It's interesting. We haven't got to introduce ourselves to each other very well yet, but just from the little bit we did in the green screen area, I can tell that you all have experiences and I have experiences that not everybody does. And I think those kind of perspectives are important to share with the world. When you're talking about an injury or a disability from birth, or you're talking about a life circumstance that makes life a little different for you than everyone else. I think it's really important to share those perspectives because, as you said, it sounds silly. It sounds like, well, of course there's disabled people, but there are a number of people that I have encountered and gone up against, sometimes in hostile situations, where they are just, convinced that disabled people either don't play games or shouldn't be playing games because there must be something more important that they could be doing with their lives, like miraculously getting better or something. I don't know. So, I tried to get good at walking for years. Hasn't happened yet. So, but
did you try?
No, I have not put in the hours. As Ninja would tell me, I did not do enough work. And if I wanted it, it would have happened by now.
Terrible.
Myself.